All right, the struggle is real with food, but it doesn't have to be. We're going to give people a couple minutes to kind of trickle in live. So we're just going to hang out. We're going to give it another minute or two, let some of the other people that have registered join in. Doug, can you see the screen share? Should be able to raise your hand. There you go. Thank you. All right, we'll give it about 30 more seconds, let a few more people join in. Thanks for those that are already here watching live. If you're watching this after the fact, thanks for checking it out. All right, the struggle of food is real, but it does not have to be. My name is Ray Binkowski. I'm the author of the book Eat by Color, as well as a handful of other titles. You can find me pretty much anywhere on the net or the web at Eat by Color. Why this webinar? Why even talk about this? Well, quite simply, we all know people that just kind of eat and exist. They never change shape or size. And there's a reason for that. We're going to dig a little bit deeper into what that reason is, as well as cover some of the more popular or trending approaches to eating, fad diets, if you will, during this webinar. If you have questions at any time, by all means, there's a Q&A button. Go ahead and click it and ask. You're welcome to do so at any time. Otherwise, we'll open up section at the end for a little Q&A. So again, my name's Ray Binkowski. I'm a former fat guy, lost 60 pounds about 20 years ago and have kept it off. That's me on the far left. That's me in the middle with a couple of my book titles, and that's me on the right. I'm usually reluctant to show the bodybuilding picture because not everybody wants to do that. However, there's value in showing it from the standpoint of, if I can go from the pants on the left to the pic on the right, what can you do? It simply highlights what's possible for all of us. None of us are made to be a certain size. None of us were born with a slow metabolism or anything else. So if I can do it, you can do it too. Terrible, unhappy relationship with a scale. How many people have had that experience where the scale is the thing they dread the most because it's going to highlight and paint a picture they already know, which is they're gaining weight? Common for most everybody. Once you get into middle age, which I define as over 30, this is something most people can relate to, the struggle trying to get your clothes on. Right now when this webinar is being done live, the seasons are changing. We're at the start of fall. Wardrobe change, long sleeves come out, jeans come out, and suddenly what fit last winter no longer fits. It's miserable, right? I'm sure most people can relate to that at one point or another. Or this, don't wear your khakis on a regular basis, don't wear your Doctors on a regular basis. Now you got to wear them for work, and there's about 2 inches too little material in the waist to actually get the pants buttoned. Doesn't have to be that way. And again, all of us know people that just tend to eat and they make progress or they maintain. And we're going to get into how and why that is in a minute or two here. We're going to start off talking about keto. Super popular approach to eating right now, if not the most, or one of 2 most popular approaches when you look at what's trending on social media, Instagram, Facebook, what's trending in the media, what's trending on blog posts, even celebrities. It's going to be ketogenic diets. So what are ketogenic diets? Basically, they're high fat, moderate protein, very low carbohydrate. So bacon's probably one of the most popular food items simply because it's mostly fat. Butter would be another one. Butter's all fat. Again, great ketogenic food to the extent people are putting it in their coffee. That's where we get bulletproof coffee. And cheese, again, mostly fat, a little bit of protein, very little carbs. That's going to be your ketogenic diet. Again, it's going to be mostly fat, little bit of protein, very little, if any, carbohydrates. I talked a little bit about the, excuse me, bulletproof coffee. Here you go. Coffee with some butter, maybe some cream, maybe some coconut oil, or what have you. It's basically all coffee and all fat. Very, very little protein, very, very little carbohydrates. In fact, there's probably maybe 1 to 2 grams, which is bordering on negligible. What a common breakfast plate might look like: eggs, whole, fried in butter, some steak, some avocado. So again, we have fat, and protein. Very little to any carbohydrates. Popular snacks on a ketogenic diet. Most people are going to find, some of you are going to be out there nodding your heads as you watch and hear this, you need something crunchy. And when you completely eliminate carbs, i.e. crackers and chips and things of that nature, there goes the crunch. The solution for that tends to be pork rinds. Today, I was surprised when I started looking into doing this webinar. There's a ton of options for pork rinds. It used to be you kind of had like barbecue pork rinds and plain, and that was it. Today you can get pork rinds in almost every flavor. You can get potato chips, you name it. Ranch, hot, spicy, barbecue, whatever. There's a brand that's making a flavored pork rind so you can get your crunch, have everything you'd normally get in a chip without having all the carbs. And again, the pork rinds are deep fried pork fat, so it's pretty much going to be almost all fat, perfect for ketogenic, allows you to get your crunch without having to have crackers and chips and those more common carbohydrate foods. Pros and cons. Ketogenic diets often give the impression that you can eat all that you want, and there's a reason for that. Typically, the diets they have to be high in fat if they're going to be ketogenic. That means lots of bacon, whole eggs, cheese, meats, avocados, things of that nature. There's possible value from a health and wellness standpoint. Ketogenic diets have been used since the 1920s, so almost 100 years in the treatment of some types of epilepsy. There's potential for treatment and management of cancers and various diseases. Ketogenic diets are wonderful for diabetics, type 1 or type 2. There's some data that suggests a ketogenic diet is similar to rocket fuel. This is based off a study of elite cyclists showing that they can basically cycle like 20% further off of using exogenous ketones. There's also benefit in suppressing your appetite. I don't think it's so much appetite suppressant as it is higher fat, higher protein foods take longer to digest. So if you have that bulletproof coffee in the morning, in all likelihood, you're not going to be hungry mid-morning. In fact, you may not even be hungry at lunch. So there is a benefit to eating the high fat, high protein meals from your appetite standpoint. The cons with the ketogenic diet, a lot of people, they call it keto flu. They feel like garbage for the first 7 to 10 days. Back when I was experimenting with different diets, I would confirm this: until your body actually is happy to metabolize fat for fuel, you're going to feel like garbage. Most people, another con, most screw up ketogenic diets. They inadvertently eat a high protein, moderate to low fat, and low carbohydrate diet. That is not a ketogenic diet. Ketogenic diets are about 65, 70, 75% of your calories come from fat. High protein diets are not ketogenic. Only eating bacon, eggs, meats, and cheeses, at some point you run out of variety. There's only so many things you can do with bacon and eggs, or with meat and cheese, or with avocado. So many will find that they struggle to stick with the ketogenic diet long term. Ketosis is not necessary for fat loss. That's kind of the goal of the ketogenic diet, which I didn't talk about, is for the body to get into ketosis. You don't have to get into ketosis to lose fat. There's plenty of people around the world that drop pounds and inches and never get into ketosis. Part two of that is many times people will be in ketosis, but when they go to test to verify they are in ketosis, there's no ketones. So how do you test to see if you're in ketosis? Typically, you urinate, you pee on a strip of paper. And if the paper turns purple or dark purple, you're in ketosis. And what's happening is we're measuring the ketones being passed in the urine. The problem is you can remetabolize the ketones, so they don't show up. So you can be in full-blown ketosis, and that little strip of paper is never going to change color. That used to happen to me all the time. I was never in ketosis according to the test strips, simply because I was so active that I was just remetabolizing the ketones. Another con is it's very ketogenic diet's very restrictive. It really does eliminate pretty much entire food groups. And when we look at, can you do this forever, that starts to set up the situation where the answer is no. Additionally, those of you that are probably 40 to 50 years of age, remember when mom, dad, neighbors, aunts, uncles were on Atkins diets back in the 90s. Well, much like the Atkins diet, we see a lot of people doing keto on and off, on and off, on and off. They lose weight. They can't stick with it for lack of variety, elimination of entire food groups, and lo and behold, they start eating normally again, variety of foods, and the weight tends to come back. This is probably close to tying ketogenic diets for most popular trending right now. Just looking this morning, I went back and I looked at a lot of places. I hang out on Facebook, and ketogenic diets or keto diets and intermittent fasting diets are probably the two most common that I see popping up. And again, even this morning, intermittent fasting basically means you're going to go periods of the day without food. You may have water, you may have some coffee, but very little to any food. There's a couple different approaches to types of fasting, and we're going to talk about those a little bit more in a second. But what it looks like is you're kind of setting a clock where there's times you eat, there's times you don't eat. And the three most popular forms of intermittent fasting are going to be alternate day fasting, periodic fasting, time restricted feeding. And what the days might look like, depending on what approach you're taking, is something like this. Before a certain time, let's say noon, that's what's in the pictogram, water, coffee, MCT oil, which is medium chain triglycerides, coconut oil, and then from some time, again, using the time of the pictogram, let's say noon to about 8 p.m., 8-hour window, you can have, for the most part, anything you want. After 8 o'clock, we go back to water, MCT oil, and things like coconut oil. I kept that one short in part because I'm biased and it's just not necessary. Now, that being said, pros to it, it does make it possible for some people to not overeat. It does make it possible, the intermittent fasting, for some people to not binge, or if they do, it puts a timeline or a window where the binging and eating can happen. And for some of those people, they may end up finding that they can control the amount of food that they eat. Some do it anecdotally report they feel better. They say that once they adjust to the fasting period, they have more energy, things of that nature. I can't speak to that. There's not really any data that supports that. However, I've talked to enough people that something's going on, even if it's just placebo. They believe they feel better, so therefore they do. I don't know, but that's what they're saying. The downside of this, you can't do it forever. And when you look at the data, there's data that says, yes, intermittent fasting can allow people to lose weight, but they compare it to other approaches to weight loss and weight management. And the results that I looked at weren't really any greater. they were kind of the same, which leads me to believe, and this is going to be supported a little bit later in our webinar, that at the end of the day, it's all about getting to that caloric deficit that you can actually maintain long term. So that's our intermittent fasting, or IMF, or whatever the acronym is. The next one, if it fits your macros, that's what that IIFYM, or flexible dieting, basically means you can eat whatever you want. You've got a calorie number to hit, macro numbers, which macronutrients are going to be your carbohydrates, protein, and fat. There's a number for carbs, a number for protein, and a number for fat. That's it. So 4 numbers, you're all set. You can eat anything you want. So even donuts, who doesn't love donuts? Burgers and fries fit nicely into this. Deep dish pizza fits as well. Lots of variety, lots of flexibility. When we look at, what are the pros? The biggest one's variety. Works anywhere, fast food, regular restaurant, on the road, traveling, vacation. Pretty much do this one any place. You can eat what you want. Downside is you're going to have to get a tracking app like MyFitnessPal. You're going to have to track and log what you eat. For some people, and this was our experience in the field in practice, some people start fixating on food. They start obsessing over numbers, and it's not something that happened often, but there are some people this starts sending them down the road to a really unhealthy relationship with food. For some, learning to make adjustments to the calories, to the macros, so your carbs, protein, and fats is a struggle. And this is one of those places where there's legitimate value in hiring a coach that has experience here, because believe it or not, long term, a lot of people end up needing to eat more to continue to lose weight. And some people with just kind of an entry level knowledge of quote unquote macros, they'll struggle to know at what point they need to increase and what that increase needs to come from. The other thing is some people end up making it a less. Pretty soon they're eating less calories, less carbs, so on and so forth. And again, without that coach, without that support, they struggle to kind of go the right direction. And if you keep eating less and less and less, more often than not, you'll hit a plateau that you're never going to break through. Additionally, I showed a nice picture of a burger, fries, donuts, deep dish pizza. You can eat anything, but you can't do it every meal every day. You still have to work towards those calorie, carbohydrate, and protein targets. So that can be a struggle for some people. Clean eating. Clean eating is, I don't even know, and I don't think there's really any parameters for this outside of clean eating. For most people means eating non-processed foods, eating non-fried foods, things of that nature. I'm going to give you an example. So this would be a clean eating salad. And I used to see this with clients all the time. They would come in and say they're eating clean, they're eating healthy, the scale's not budging, the clothes aren't fitting better, they're making zero progress. And even worse, in some cases, the clothes were getting tighter and the scale was going up, and they weren't happy with what they saw looking back at them in the mirror. And then we would have a brief discussion about what they're eating and what clean eating and healthy eating meant. And inevitably, it would lead to something like what you see in the picture, an uber healthy salad that is loaded with every quote unquote healthy, quote unquote clean eating food option under the sun. Chia seeds, sunflower seeds, flax meal, some avocado slices, some olive oil, some this, some that. And pretty soon they took that clean eating healthy salad that would normally be 400 to 600 calories, and now they have a 12 or 1500 calorie salad, at which point you might as well have gotten 2 burgers at your favorite burger place. So yes, you can eat clean, but more often than not, that does not mean, eating clean and healthy does not mean weight loss. It does not mean weight management. It just means you're not eating processed junk foods. And is not always going to be congruent or in line with your goals. And the reason is all the extras that get piled on. You know, again, I had one client every day at lunch for work. She's like, well, I don't understand. I'm eating a salad every day, Monday through Friday for work. I make my own salad. I bring my own salad. I do my meal prep. And I was like, wow, she's doing a lot of things right. Where is the disconnect? Well, this was the disconnect. Her salads were like 1,200, 1,500 calories every day. Pros to eating healthy. You probably can't eat too many vegetables. There's a lot of value in that. There's a lot of vitamins and minerals and water, things we won't get from other foods. There's no question favoring foods that are, you go pick it off a vine, a plant, a tree, are going to be better than something that comes out of a box or a plastic bag and has been highly processed. There's no question about that. However, the number of calories you eat still will matter. It doesn't matter if the calories are from super healthy foods. If you overeat them, it's going to be a problem. So again, your healthy eating, your clean eating does not guarantee that you're going to see positive movement on the scale, any movement on the scale, and in some cases, the scale might actually go up. Eat by color. I'm biased. I wrote the book Eat by Color. It's a simple way to make better food choices. Essentially, I color-coded the food groups. I teach people to make food choices as easy as children's paint by number. It self-limits the calories and the macros without giving the individual numbers to fixate on. Just like the If It Fits Your Macros or flexible dieting, you really can eat anything and you really can eat anywhere. So fast food, restaurant, on the road traveling, vacation, you can still make this work. But what does it look like? For breakfast, you might have protein waffles. This is a picture out of my current newest book, Healthy, Simple, and Tasty Recipes for Living Well. These are protein waffles. It's basically protein and carbohydrates. Easy to make, tastes good, can be portable, totally eat by color. Lunch might look like chicken panini. Recipes right out of the Healthy, Simple, Tasty Recipes for Living Well book. It's going to be chicken breast, high fiber, fold it, brand, wrap, and a little bit of red sauce. Easy to make, tastes good. You can make it portable. You can even repurpose leftover chickens for the chicken. A dinner option, recipe right out of the same book. This is going to be a super easy, simple spin on Asian food. You're going to use rice cauliflower instead of rice. So this is a high protein dinner option that's low in carbs. You can tailor the fat if you want. You can work in more vegetables or what have you. It tastes great, easy to make, without all of the calories and very low on the carbohydrate side. Snack-wise, great Eat by Color snack is going to be a protein shake. Something like this is going to be like a whopping 320 calories, 40, 45 grams of protein, maybe 10 grams of fat and 10 grams of carbs. Easy to make, portable, tastes good, kind of hits that sweet tooth if you have one. Super simple. Now let's talk pros and cons. Eat by Color, you can do it anywhere, just like If It Fits Your Macros and flexible dieting. There's still counting, but it's not using numbers, it's using your fist to regulate your portions. And it self-regulates based on your size. So again, you don't have to fixate on those calories. You don't have to fixate on the macro numbers or any of that. Can definitely be done long-term. It is built off of calories and macros. It just doesn't give you those individual numbers. Probably the biggest issue I've seen since I wrote this 15 years ago is people really struggle with knowing what to substitute and why. As simple as I tried to make it, there's still people that don't realize, like, a fist of carbohydrates, they can have their fist of any carbohydrates. So they can plug in, plug out, trade in, trade out, whatever, and really build in that variety. Unfortunately for many, that variety is blurred and confused. And I repeatedly got asked, what about meal ideas? What about recipe ideas? Do you have a menu? Well, for years, the answer was, yes, I have one, but I don't have it in a format that I can hand you. Today I do. That format is healthy, simple, and tasty. It's a book with 150 recipes. It kind of answers and resolves that confusion. It answers the what should I eat? It answers the do you have variety or meal ideas? Yes. Today there's a book. It's available. It's all right there. Easy to do. But that probably, if there's one con, it's people struggle with being able to create their own variety. So what they all do. So every one of the approaches we just covered, and there's many more that we didn't cover, but I tried to pick the most popular and the ones that are trending that I see in social media and pop culture. Why do they work? Quite simply, they create a caloric deficit. That's it. At the bottom line, they work because people consume less calories than they spend. So why does that matter? This is why. Law of conservation energy. Quite simply, energy cannot be created nor destroyed. And what that means for the human body, if you consume more energy, calories, than you spend activity, the extra calories go somewhere. And in the human body, the extra calories get stored as fat. It's that simple. Energy in must equal energy out. It's as easy as that. That's rule number one for weight loss and weight management. Nothing else matters until we balance the energy equation. After that, where those calories come from, carbs, protein, and fat will start to matter. But at the end of the day, the king of weight loss and weight management is going to be how many calories did you consume and how many did you spend. It comes down to, it's that simple law of conservation of energy, which we don't have to turn it into this, okay? It's not going to be some gobbledygook, endless equations and mathematics. It really isn't. It's not that complicated. Every one of these approaches to nutrition works if it works for the same reason. Creates a caloric deficit, period, right here. That's the reason every one of those, and every one of those diets that we haven't heard of and somebody hasn't marketed yet, if it works, it's going to work because it creates a caloric deficit. It's that simple. It's not magic. It just isn't. And this guy would agree. It's as simple as calories in, balance with calories out. No harder than that. Now, what does it look like? Well, again, we're going to keep hammering this home. Every one of these approaches to nutrition, if it works for somebody, works for the same reason. Creates a caloric deficit, period. And that means, in what the human body knows and what it doesn't know and what it outright doesn't care about, you can eat 1 meal a day, 4 meals a day, 3 meals a day, 6 meals a day, 4 meals a day, eat every 2 hours. Doesn't matter. As long as you spend more calories than you consume, you're going to lose weight. You have to. Science. So how do you put it all together? First and foremost, your approach has to be long-term. Okay, this is litmus paper, typically used in science to test for acids and bases. The litmus paper for you and your approach to nutrition is quite simply, you know you have to manage your calories. Next point, how am I going to do that? And when you look at all of the approaches to nutrition we've already talked about, so if we go back, I'm just going to cherry pick these ones. Which one of these can you do long term? If the answer is you cannot do them long term, then it fails the litmus test and you're not going to be able to stick with it. So rule number one, you've got to manage your energy. You got to balance your calories consumed with calories spent. Rule number two is, or most importantly, can you do it forever? If not, you've got a fad diet. And that fad diet is going to be the equivalent of this. On the merry-go-round, off the merry-go-round, on the merry-go-round, off the merry-go-round. I would watch people in the gym that I used to own, they do eat by color, and they'd crush it, and then wouldn't see them for a while. Then they'd be back in the gym. They'd be telling me how eat by color quit working. Well, eat by color didn't quit working. It's science. If you regulate how many calories you eat, you're either going to stay the same, you're going to gain weight, or you're going to lose weight. They just quit doing it. So they're on to the next thing, the 21-day fix, or on to macros, or on to keto, or back to Atkins or whatever it was. You might as well just pick this pony right here, hop on and get off, and then when it comes around again, hop back on the merry-go-round, or hop on a different horse, or sit in the wagon or the buggy or the sleigh on the merry-go-round. But the on again, off again is where you're going to end up if you pick an approach you can't do long term. So long term means it needs to allow you to have the occasional donut. You are going to have coffee. You do not have to put cream in your coffee. You don't have to put butter in your coffee. You don't have to put butter and cream in your coffee. Totally up to you, but you need to have the variety and the option to have coffee and to have what you like in it. And if you don't like putting butter in your coffee, you shouldn't try and follow an approach that requires it. You can eat healthy. You can eat clean. You can eat clean and healthy and maintain your weight or lose weight, but you can't turn a 400 or 600 calorie salad that, by the way, is healthy into a 12 or 1500 calorie salad that, yes, it's still healthy, but everything in the kitchen that is healthy, from chia seeds to sunflower seeds and avocado and olive oil, can't all end up in the same salad, or you're going to eat too many calories. You can have the occasional burger and fries. Even if you're a vegan or a vegetarian, you can have the occasional burger and fries, because now we've got all kinds of meatless burger options that supposedly taste as good as a burger. And again, your meal plan probably needs to allow, your nutrition plan probably needs to allow you the flexibility to have the occasional burger and fries. Because I can tell you, at some point in your life, you're probably going to want to have that. You're also going to want to be able to have the occasional adult beverage, martini, glass of beer, whatever it might be. And if the plan completely eliminates that, be wary. You're probably setting yourself up for the off the merry-go-round, on the merry-go-round, off the merry-go-round, on the merry-go-round. So the how. This is probably one of the rare times I'll share these numbers. I typically won't just outright give that to somebody. And I did go and steal this pictogram off the internet. Why? Because I thought it was pretty good. So how do you set it up? Take your body weight, multiply it by 10 to 12. For most people, 12 is not going to work. If you ride a desk, you're in an office, 12 is probably going to be too much. Multiply your body weight by 10, measure your weight, and in 30 days, measure your weight again. If the scale moved, keep doing it. If the scale didn't move, you might need to lower that multiplier a little bit, or make an adjustment, 10 times your new weight. Maybe you started at 150, you're now 145, so you're going to need to make an adjustment. But this is a pretty good rule of thumb. 10 to 12 times body weight will give you a starting point for calories. You still got to do some exercise. Exercise isn't going to be lots of cardio. It just doesn't work. You need to be doing some load-bearing activity, as well as just moving more in everyday life. And then you're going to need to adjust. But do the math, 10 times body weight, get on the scale today, 30 days, get on the scale again, evaluate what happened, make your adjustments. Kind of that simple. Additionally, clothes out of the dryer, particularly denim or blue jeans, never lie. If they fit better 30 days later right out of the dryer, it's working. Now, with all of that being said, we don't do well by putting ourselves in a box or a small bowl. Oftentimes that leads to wanting to jump out of the box or bowl into a new bowl. If you create an approach that A, you can't do forever, and B, you're constantly fixated on everything you can't do, all you're not allowed to do, it won't be very long before you're trying to get out of that fish bowl, like in the picture, into a new bowl. So you have to shift your mindset. How do we do that? Start looking at things as targets, not as restrictions and limits. If you're going to follow the macro plan, you have a calorie target. Your goal is to hit the target. Instead of, you're not allowed to eat more than that many calories. So if we use that pictogram example of 1,500 calories, the correct mindset is, my target's 1,500 calories. The wrong mindset is, I can only have 1,500 calories. Because again, the moment you start doing that, you're creating this situation where you're going to want to jump out of that bowl into a different bowl. Shift your mindset to targets. You're going to have a calorie target. You're going to have a carbohydrate target. You're going to have a fat and a protein target. And you're going to work towards getting close to those targets on a consistent basis. Don't put yourself in a box. Don't start imposing all kinds of limits on yourself. As soon as you do that, you're going to want to break the limits. It's human nature. Additionally, long term, many will find that they need to eat more to lose more, not less. It's not a case of constantly eating less and less and less and less and less. Long term, many people find they have to eat more. Again, this is one of those places where there is going to be value in having a legitimate coach that knows what they're doing, because they're going to kind of be your rock to encourage you that it's okay to go ahead and eat more, even though you're freaking out that if you eat more, the scale is going to go up. But we've seen it in practice over and over again. Many times the answer is eat more, not less. I know it's completely counter to everything you've heard in the media, pop culture, the classroom, or whatever, but I've done this with I don't know how many people, and more often than not, to keep the ball rolling in the right direction, they got to eat more. So don't be afraid to do that. And yes, at some point there's value in hiring a coach that knows what they're doing. As crazy as it may seem, often the solution is in eating more. In addition to the food, you got to find something fun. You got to do weight training 2 to 3 days a week for, say, 40 minutes, 30, 40 minutes, and then get moving more. You know, just because you're not 18 anymore, because you're not 22 anymore, doesn't mean you have to give up softball or baseball or basketball or bowling or pool or cycling or hiking or golf or skateboarding or whatever it might be. There's no law that says because you're no longer XYZ age, you can't do these physical activities. Get out and get moving. The more of that you do is just a bonus. Plus, it's going to improve your quality of life in ways far beyond just a number on the scale or how your jeans fit out of the dryer. Just find more ways to get moving. Long-term success really comes down to, can you stick with it long-term? You got to balance that energy equation. And whatever your approach is, if it's going to work, you need it to work long-term, or onto the merry-go-round, off of the merry-go-round. You can't put yourself into boxes. No limits. Shift your mindset to targets. Work to hit the targets. Find activities you like and make sure you include some weights. Macros matter only after calories. Calories are king, which right back to that energy equation. We have to manage that. Now, if you really want to screw everything up, do this on the weekends. Okay, you can't do this. Now, I'm not saying you can't have these foods and drinks. You can. But you can't, if your target's 1,800, blow right past your target 2 days a week, because at the end of 7 days, you're going to have a caloric surplus, not a deficit. Or you're going to have a caloric maintenance number, not a deficit. Energy cannot be created nor destroyed. So if you spend more energy than you consume, that extra energy is going to come from stored fat. But if you do this, you're going to have a surplus energy. You're not going to lose much, if any, weight. So make sure that on the weekends, you can go ahead, or whatever day of the week. I don't even like saying just the weekends, because what if your birthday is on a Wednesday? Your anniversary is on a Monday. Your graduation's on a Sunday. I mean, you can have what you want, just don't do it all the time, and don't grossly overdo it. When I see stuff like this happening on the weekend, where people are way overdoing it, it usually means these numbers right here are too low. There's something wrong throughout the week, because we should be able to find a number, gets the scale moving in the right direction, and still allows them to enjoy themselves on the weekend, but they don't have to over-enjoy or overindulge. Confidential secrets, things I've learned from doing this for almost 20 years with, at this point, thousands of people. Long-term success is about better food choices most of the time. Not all the time, most of the time. If you can get 25 out of 30 days of the month that are pretty good, you're going to have a pretty good month. If you can do 300 pretty good days, 320 pretty good days out of a 365-day calendar year, you're going to have a great year. Pick a plan that you can stick with indefinitely. And for most people, not to pick on keto, but that means they can't completely eliminate carbohydrates. You're going to have carbs again. I guarantee it. Trust me, you are. Those that are fit often do these things with very little direct thought, input, concern, or what have you. That was one of the initial things I said in the webinar. We all know people that they kind of eat whatever they want, yet we never really see them overeating. They don't necessarily avoid entire food groups. And many times they don't even log things. They just make better food choices. What they've managed to stumble on or gravitate to or just happened for whatever reason, they end up eating at or around maintenance calories, and it's pretty intuitive. That should be the goal of everybody. When you get to that point, you're going to be successful long term because you've removed all of the things that I've seen as pitfalls for other people. Be friend with stupid people, feel like genius all the time. So things I didn't cover and things that are important. Everyone says or everyone knows. Well, who's everyone? Really, who are they? Like, there is no everyone knows that keto works. It's not true. Everyone knows you have to count your macros in MyFitnessPal. It's not true. Cardio. Everyone knows you have to do cardio. Everyone knows you got to do lots of cardio. Everyone knows you got to do fasted cardio, or you have to do high intensity interval training or HIIT training or tempo or Tabata or whatever it might be. You don't need cardio. If you get your food right, you're doing some weight training, you've gone back and started doing those healthy activities you used to do, whether it's skateboarding, snowboarding, golf, and walking the course, not riding in a cart, it's going to take care of itself. Cheat days, I don't like labeling days as cheat days, and that goes right back to what I said on the slide with the weekend overindulgence. You know, what happens if your cheat day is Saturday and your birthday is on Wednesday? So are you going to postpone enjoying your birthday till Saturday because that's your cheat day? It doesn't make any sense. If you want it, have it, and as long as you do it occasionally, it's not going to matter. You don't need to fast. Back to the slide on the intermittent fasting and basically the slides on everything else. There's a lot of people I know in the fitness industry, in the wellness industry, in the diet industry, in the weight loss industry, whatever you want to call it. They're fit. They're super fit men and women. And today they might be promoting one approach, but I can tell you some of them I've known going back to the 90s. So at this point, we're talking 20 years. And they looked that good 20 years ago. I mean, some of them were on the covers of magazines at newsstands 20 years ago. And I can tell you, because I knew them back then, what they're doing today is not what they were doing back then. So again, be wary of what everyone says or everyone knows, and be wary of somebody that looked great a year ago and now they've been fasting and they look just like they did a year ago and they're telling you the only way you'll be successful is to fast. You don't need to do teas and detoxes. I left that out because that's kind of waned in the public eye. It's not as popular in pop culture as it was. Back to cardio. Some cardio may be good. I'd rather you find more activities you like doing and be more active than dedicating any time to do cardio. It's just not necessary. And I can pick or cherry pick, you know, cardiovascular health, you name it, things that are improved by weight training where you don't need to do all the cardio. If you want the scale to move, you got to fix the food component, which means spend more calories than you consume, and calories is not necessary. Cardio is not necessary. Supplements, somebody posted today L-carnitine on Facebook, one of the groups that I'm in for fat loss. There is an opportunity for L-carnitine to aid in fat loss, but it will aid in fat loss if and only if you get your calories right. And that's true of L-carnitine and every other supplement under the sun. If you don't get your food right, the supplements will not matter. They're not going to make up for eating too many calories. They just don't. There's not a single supplement that will. So keep that in mind, especially, again, when you're seeing some of those fitness influencers, the weight loss experts, they're talking about this product they take. Again, a lot of these people I've known for a decade or in some cases 2 decades. I want to tell you, some of these guys were on covers of magazines in 98, 99. And yeah, they're 20 years older, but they look just as good 20 years ago as they do today And that new supplement they're selling didn't even exist yet. So supplements are just that. They're a supplement. They may aid your better food choices and managing your calories, but they're not going to be a replacement for getting the food right. They just aren't. So I try to pick a menagerie, a mixture, a collage of before and after pictures, people of variety ages, shapes, sizes, stations in life. This young lady right here is in her mid-late 20s. This lady right here is, I think she's 65 years old. This guy's almost 50. She's 40, has had more than one kid. The lady whose jeans these are, you can see the outline of the much smaller jean size on top of the much larger jean size. She's 50-ish, has had kids. So they did it. You can do it. As one of my friends says all the time, if not now, when? What are you waiting for? You can change. Gave you the tools. They did it. You can too. None of us are born to be any size outside of maybe our height. You can change your shape. It all starts with the decision to change. It's possible. And the struggle with food is real. For you, it won't be, because you're now empowered with knowledge. You just need to execute the knowledge, put it to work for you. For those that have more questions, you can reach out to me, Ray at FitWorkz.com. You can find me anywhere on the internet at Eat by Color. When the webinar is done, I'll send an email out for those that want to schedule a consult. I'll send you a link. It'll give you access to my personal calendar. You want to set up a time and learn more, you want to set up a time and get help, happy to do so. Don't waste that opportunity. You can do this. And then lastly, are there any questions? I'll hang out. I'll keep the webinar live for a couple minutes and answer questions. If there are no questions, after a minute or two, I will end the webinar. For those that have watched and participated live, thanks for doing so. For those that raised a hand early on, let me know that you were here. Appreciate it. So does anybody have any questions? Again, it's easy to recap before we sign off here, unless we do get a question. You've got to manage how many calories you consume relative to what you spend. Get out and get active. Start playing those games and sports. There's all kinds of rec leagues, co-ed leagues, men's leagues, women's leagues for pretty much anything under the sun today. Get out and get moving. Then back to the nutrition thing. Nutrition's going to be king. Just make sure that you apply that litmus test of, can I do this the rest of my life? If the answer is yes, then even if it's keto, I may say you're going to eat carbohydrates again, but if you really can go without eating much, if any, carbohydrates indefinitely, then keto's your ticket. Go with it. Just remember, it's got to be an approach that you can stick with long term, or you're going to end up on that merry-go-round again. So give it a little longer. If we don't get any questions, I'll go ahead and end the webinar again. For those that are still hanging around, thanks for doing so. Thanks for joining us today. We appreciate it. And again, you can find me at Eat by Color anywhere on the old internet. Would love to hear from you. And we're going to head out. Thanks, everyone. Have a great day. And if you're watching live, the weekend's a day away. Have a great weekend. See you.